Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing the Newbie Tag for BookTube channels. So this is just a series of questions to ask yourself about your channel and why you started it and everything. So, no, again, nobody tagged me in this. I just wanted to do it because it looked interesting and I wanted a bunch of video ideas for December because I wanted to put up the background. Woohoo! Okay, so first question is, why did you start this channel? I started this channel because I am a trained librarian and I finished school, got my master's degree in library and information science, and quit my job and wanted to, I quit my job and was trying to get a job in the library field and was not having a lot of success. So I still wanted to be able to use my knowledge, and I thought maybe making a YouTube channel would be a fun way to do that. Also, Reader's Advisory, which is what I try to do on this channel, is help you find books you want to read, is my passion. And I was like, okay, fine. If I can't do it in the library, I will find a way to do it. So here I am. Also, if I'm really being honest, I thought maybe it would look good on my resume. There's definitely a link for this channel on my resume, but I got a library job. Woo woo! So I will still continue to do this, even though I now have a professional outlet to be able to do these sorts of things, you know, tell people about books and stuff. But I really enjoy making the channel, so I'm still going to continue doing this, even though in 6 days I start my library job. Okay, question number 2 is, what are fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? So a couple of things. Obviously, I look at books a little bit differently, being a librarian versus someone who, a lot of people on BookTube are authors, and so I have found, are way harsher critics of books. And I mean, I can definitely critique a book and I can definitely express why I didn't like books, but for me, it's not about so much if I liked a book or not, it's what is the breakdown of the book so you can determine if it's something you want to read. So I think I give a different perspective on the books. I do talk about my personal perspective just in case, you know, we have similar reading tastes or whatever. And also there are sometimes flaws in books that, while they don't show up in the actual breakdown, maybe something you want to know about before you start reading it. Also, I'm 35, so I'm way older than most of the other people on BookTube, like decade plus older. And so I think just having different life experiences puts you in a different frame of mind for when you're reading things. And I mean, for just life in general, you have a completely different perspective on the things around you when you're 35 than you do when you're like 22. And not that that's bad, it's just different. So I think that's another thing I can bring to BookTube, is a completely different perspective for someone who's in their mid-30s instead of early to mid-20s or younger. So, question number 3. What are you most excited for? My husband's over there like, what are you most excited for about this channel? I think discovering new books. I have found so many books I would have never even considered, because I do a bunch of research by watching other booktubers to kind of keep up on like what's coming out, what's really popular, because I can talk about really obscure stuff, but I also want to talk about stuff that's mainstream, because I am giving a different perspective on books. So, you know, I want to talk about books that are relevant, and I have found, like, in another video, I was talking about how I read The Diviners because everybody was going on about how it was like a must read for October, and it was super not something I would have ever picked up on my own, and it ended up being one of my favorite books I read this year. So I'm really, really excited to find these random, I mean, not random, it's a very popular book, but random for me. Like, that is not a book I would have ever read. So I'm really excited about finding all of these random treasures. I also wrote that I'm pushed to read a lot more. I used to read all the time. And then I went into graduate school, and you have to read so much. And it's not stuff you necessarily want to read, but I mean, you have to read all these academic articles, and I took a genre fiction class. So we literally read a book every week, a novel every week in a different genre. And on top of all of the other reading I was doing. So I was really burnt out. And the only way I was reading anything was via audiobook. I was, one of the books I'm doing later is, or not one of the books, one of the videos I'm doing later is all of the books you read in 2018. So I was going back through my Goodreads, and it goes from like April of this year to like November of last year. I didn't apparently read anything for like 5 months. And that was even including audiobooks and stuff. So I'm really excited to be back into reading and be excited about it. I've read a bunch of books in the last 6 months since I started this channel. I've read as many as I probably have in like the last 4 years. So I'm really excited about that as well. The next question is, why do you love reading? And I know a lot of people read for the escapism, and I've never really been about the escapism. I love the fact that you get to experience these other worlds, but I've never been doing it to try and escape my current world. So I love to experience other worlds just for the experience of them. I love to experience the stories. I really immerse myself, and I get to see so many things that don't actually exist and I wouldn't see otherwise. And I love that. I also love, okay, so I was homeschooled like forever. Like I never went to actual school except for like a couple of classes here and there. And so growing up, my social life was not super active. No one is surprised. And so a lot of the time there just wasn't anything else to do growing up. It was like, well, it's me and my sister's super mean to me. So, so I was like, I'm just going to go read because we don't have cable. We don't have any video games. I don't like being outside. And I live in Seattle, so like 3/4 of the year being outside is kind of miserable anyway. So yeah, so it's something I've done forever. And I think that's part of it is just a habit. I do it because I don't know where else I was going with that, but I hope you can get where I was going with that. Okay. What book or series got you into reading? So like I just said, I've always read literally as far back as I can remember. When I was a kid, I was super into books, like super, super, super into books. So I can't specifically be like, this series is the one that got me into reading because it's like before I can remember. But the ones I really remember just like reading all of them when I was younger was, so Berenstain Bears. And everybody's going to be like, it's Berenstain Bears. I don't care. I don't care if that's actually what it says. It's Berenstain Bears. Like, okay. I didn't really have that many, but my friend had like the entire set, and I would reread the ones I had over and over and over again. And then we'd go over to her house and we'd be like, can we trade? Whatever. And so Berenstain Bears, Encyclopedia Brown. I loved how smart she was. I loved that she was able to solve mysteries, not by necessarily like...
Encyclopedia Brown was a girl?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure. Hold on. I think her first name is Cameron. No, maybe I'm... No, that series is the one where she has the photographic memory. Is that not Encyclopedia Brown? Oh my gosh. Hold on. Hold,
Hold.
please.
Brown boy detective.
No! Okay, Cam Johnson is the one. Cam Johnson is the one I was thinking
His
of.
name is Leroy.
Shh.
I was like, there's no way it's a boy. It's
Johnson.
a girl.
Oh, maybe it's Johnston? Kids books. Cam Jansen. Cam Jansen. Yes. Okay. So, apparently Encyclopedia Brown was a boy. In my head, I made him a girl. Because apparently I prefer girls. I do definitely prefer female leads in my books. But, yeah. So, I was combining Cam Jansen, who has a photographic memory. So her name is Cameron, but she goes by Cam, like camera. And she does this to take pictures of scenes, and she uses that to solve mysteries. I was super into that and super into Encyclopedia Brown. I had taken her and put her into Encyclopedia Brown and thought it was the same series because we're talking books I read literally like 25, 30 years ago. So, so yeah, I'm super into both of those. I like that they use their smarts, and because I was like, again, no one will be surprised. I was not athletic. I was not cool, but I was decently okay in school. So I liked the fact that these kids were using their smarts to win situations, if you will. Along the same vein, Nancy Drew and Boxcar Children, same thing. And the Nancy Drew series I had was new. It was the like updated versions. And it's so funny now because it was written in like the early 80s. And I remember them describing her clothes and stuff. And it was like peach colored pantsuits and stuff. And I just thought she was like the height of fashion. And now you're like, oh no, like that needs another update. But back then that was like super current and really cool way, like a cool way to dress. And yeah, anyway, so I have actually not read a ton of the ones that are like the original ones from the 50s or whatever. Like I have read some, but my parents at a garage sale got like 20 books out of the ones that had been redone in the 80s. So I owned those. I don't think I owned any of the like thicker ones that had the hard plastic cover that was like blue with yellow on it or whatever. And so yeah, I mostly just read the ones that were revamped for the 80s. And then finally, Babysitter's Club. My best friend, the one that had all of the Berenstain Bear books, she and I were super into the Babysitter's Club, like super into the Babysitter's Club. When the movie came out, we legit like had a party, decorated her basement, had a whole like shebang about it. We were super into it. So yeah, my husband is like, yeah, well, I was a 12-year-old girl. That was what you read with it back then. What questions would you ask your favorite booktuber? So my favorite booktuber is Haley in Bookland, and I will link her channel down below. I've talked about her, well, you guys haven't seen it yet, but I've mentioned her a couple of times in the Vlogmas videos that aren't up yet because I'm only doing 12 days. This is 12, in case you're wondering.
That's actually
I'm only doing 12 videos. I don't know. So these, when I wrote these questions, these are specifically, like she's specifically who I was thinking of. What inspired you to start your channel? And what advice would you give to go back and give to your newbie booktuber self? Booktuber newbie self. Booktuber newbie self. Anyway, so those are my questions. So Haley, if you see this, those are my questions for you. Let's see. I can't wear my glasses when I film because you just get glare off of both of them. So every time I want to read something from my notes, I'm like, especially when we get down lower on the page. So, you know, again, I'm older. I'm an older booktuber. Almost middle-aged, problems. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be hardest to overcome? So I have noticed recently when I go back and I edit my videos, I'm really stiff, especially the first half of the video. I kind of tend to loosen up and as I get a flow and stuff. Oh, excuse me. But especially when I'm talking about like books, doing a video on a book or a book series instead of just one of these newbie tags where it's, just like a sit down chat sort of thing, I'm really, really stiff and nobody wants to watch that. So, my husband's shaking his head. Am I not stiff? I don't know what you mean. Oh no, I am. So I think the biggest challenge to overcome is just let more of my personality shine through the whole video instead of having to like get into a flow. And I don't know if I need to just do the first video twice and like throw the first one away just so that I'm kind of in the zone. I don't know, but yeah, that seems to be the hardest thing. I thought editing was going to be the trickiest part because I'd never done anything like that except for I had to put together a 1-minute video from my storytelling class back in grad school, and editing that took so long. And so I thought editing these videos would be crazy hard because they're like 20 minutes instead of 1 minute. And I think I spend less time editing these than I did that 1-minute video because I was doing all sorts of like cuts and it was way more elaborate than just like trying to trim out the excess in this. And obviously my editing skills are not super great, but I am able to do it, and it was not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. So when did you start reading? I've already said, like, I've been reading as long as I can remember. So there have been some reading slumps sprinkled in. Like I said, I basically didn't read anything for like 4 years except for some audiobooks. But even when I was younger, there'd be like a couple of years where I just didn't feel like it, or 6 months or whatever. But generally speaking, I've been reading as long as I can remember. So where do you read? Where do other people read? I read on the couch or in bed, which I'm sure my husband's thrilled about because he goes to bed at like 4 p.m. He's all like, but I'll go upstairs with him sometimes when he goes to bed, and I have like little clip-on book lights, and I'll read in there or on the couch. Where do other people read? I don't know. I thought that was a weird question. Let's see. Final question. Dun, 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 dun. What kinds of books do you like to read? So my two like absolute go-tos are cozy mysteries and YA fantasies. The YA fantasies have some caveats. I don't like things that are super heavy in the romance. I mean, I don't hate it, but it doesn't really add anything for me. And so a lot of times I feel like gets in the way of the story. So if it's done all right, I don't mind it being there. But if it's like the whole book just becomes about this like weird love triangle thing or whatever, like I don't need that. I'm not interested, whatever. And I like stuff that has personal growth, but not necessarily like specifically coming of age. It's weird to be like, oh, I like YA fantasy, because I don't really know why I like YA, because most of the things that specifically make it YA I'm not crazy about. But it just happens to be that like my favorite books tend to be YA, like Harry Potter, favorite series of all time, which actually starts out as like middle grade and then goes into YA as they get older. And like Throne of Glass, I know there's a lot of people who are not into this series at all, and there are definitely some books were better than others. Which that could be said about the Harry Potter series too. I mean, I still don't think these are on par with the Harry Potter series, but I love that series. I love it. And it is definitely YA. And I don't know specifically why I end up loving these books that are YA. I loved Six of Crows, also YA, also fantasy. I don't know. Because by all accounts, I shouldn't really like YA, but I do. So, yeah, I tend to like a lot of YA fantasy, but it's not this like blanket thing where it could be like YA fantasy, just straight across the board. It definitely has to be done well. Like Divergent, I hated Divergent. the first book was great. I liked the first book. The other two were terrible. And I tried to read 4 and I made it like 30 pages and was like, nope, can't do it. Cozy mysteries, I mean, there are definitely some that are not done well, but generally speaking, it's really hard to find a cozy mystery I don't love. So those are my 2 like go-to genres. There are other things as well that I like about books. I love a book that has a strong female lead. It doesn't have to be absolutely the main character. Like 6 of Crows, the main character was really Kaz, but Inej was the person who kept him going. And so I feel like she counts just as much. I love books that are in a series because I like books that are not as heavy of a read. Not that you could tell since I'm like, oh, this 980 page book, I love it. I love it. But I mean, a book can be long without being dense. But I love the feeling of being with, like, cozy mysteries are not that long. So you get series that have like 20 books in them. And I love that because it's almost like reading about family at that point. So that's my favorite. Is I love something to be in a series and I like it to have a strong female lead. If you've got both of those, like, and I think that's probably part of the reason I liked the Throne of Glass series so much, was because it met both of those criteria and it's YA fantasy. So anyway, love that. Oh, I also really like autobiographies, and when I do autobiographies, I love getting the audiobook read by the author. It's so much fun because it's like you're just sitting down having a conversation with this person you've watched on TV or whatever, and then being like, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I really like those as well. And that's that. That's the Newbie book tag. If you guys have any other questions that weren't on here that you were like just been burning to know, go ahead and leave them down in the comments and I will for sure answer those. But until next time, I hope you have happy reading. Nope. No. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And until next time, happy reading. So, sorry. Catch things and pull them off the countertop. It's encyclopedia. No, it's not. I actually heard someone else pronounce it that way and I was like, what? Like, I totally thought that was made up for that show. And I just... Oh, there's the email. My dog is barking. Trying to decide if I need to go bring him in because he's being obnoxious and I don't like annoying the neighbors. Okay, I think he's calmed down. My husband's gonna make the dog come in because he's being a jerk. I'm glad we let the dog in. As soon as you stop, he starts. This is fun. And now as soon as he's done, the thing's gonna be out of water and it's gonna be like, wah.
Yep.
Why are you not drinking out of your own water dish?
What?
He's looking at me like, what?